Friends, welcome back. I am Jason, and I'm here in a pretty featureless environment. While there are some terrain features, they are extremely subtle, and it's pretty easy to get turned around in a place like this. But there's a couple of tactics that you could employ to help yourself get unlost or not get lost in the first place. Number one. First thing you could do is you could blaze a trail. Like as you're going through an environment like this, typically I don't do this, but if I was in some sort of survival situation and things were desperate, I would literally take trees of this size and I would bend them over and I'd break them in half, and I'd take branches and I'd break them and I'd mark my way. That way I could retrace my steps if I was lost in the first place. But typically I don't like to do that because I don't want to scar up the landscape as much as possible. So one tactic that you can employ to help yourself not get lost if you are off of a trail and you're in a place like this where everything kind of looks the same. I mean, every tree, every piece of ground, every bush all looks kind of the same, and it's really easy to get turned around. So one thing you can do is you can look at the sun, and you can keep the sun. Let's say I'm moving and I've got the sun on kind of my right shoulder, right? I know that this time of day, it's getting a little bit later in the evening. That's probably southwestish. Right there. The sun at the highest point in the sky during the middle of the day, let's say noonish, is probably somewhat south. If I'm looking at the sun and it's noonish, give or take, it's southish. End of the day, sun setting, west. Sun rises in the east, sets in the west. So if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do. If you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. Lots of content coming out all the time. So one tactic I can use is I can keep the sun kind of on my right shoulder. Let's say I'm moving in this direction right here, and I keep just a mental note of where the sun is. It's on my right shoulder right here. And when it's time for me to get out of this place, you know, assuming I haven't got lost yet, or I don't think I'm lost yet, I just turn around and I put the sun on my left shoulder. And then I walk out, and that's going to get me approximately to back where I'm going. Let's assume, you know, let's say the river is this direction. There's a road this direction, east and west of me, let's say. And it's going to be fairly easy for me to hit that. Now, I'm not going to be able to find a needle in a haystack. I'm not going to be able to precisely hit, you know, let's say my truck parked in the middle of an open space. I'm not going to be able to do that. But I could hit a road, and I know kind of approximately if I hit this road and I hang a right, it'll take me back to where I parked my truck. That kind of stuff. Now, let's say that we are lost. You know, you got in here, you were exploring, you were going to check something out, you got a little off trail, maybe you had to go poop. You got off trail, which has happened to plenty of people before, and suddenly you're like, oh crap, like I don't know where I am. Like, shoot, I think it might have been this way, but maybe it was this way. Oh, geez, I don't know. And then a lot of people, what happens is they get to that point right there, and then they freak out. They panic and they start running through the woods as fast as they can. And then they roll their ankle or something. They step in a hole, or they trip on one of these cypress knees like this, for example. You know, you trip over one of these guys, and then suddenly you're injured. And now not only are you lost, you're stuck. So let's not do that. So if you do get to that point where you're like, oh, shoot, I'm not exactly sure I know where I'm at or how can I get back, just stop for a second. Stop, maybe sit down against one of these trees, rest for a second, take a drink of water, and just try to assess the situation as best you can. Just don't panic. Then from there, to get yourself unlost, one of the best things that you can do is find something that's easy to see from far enough away. Like, let's say, for example, I pick a tree. Like, let's say I pick this tree right here. That's a pretty tall tree. I could see it from a good distance away. It's kind of isolated. It's by itself. There's not a lot of stuff around it. And I can keep an eye on that tree as I move away from it. So let's say, and I'm going to pick 4 directions. And I know there's my tree right here. I'm going to pick 4 directions away from that tree, and I'm going to investigate all 4 directions until I kind of hopefully get myself back on track. Because let's say I just went off the trail for a second. It's not that far back to the trail. I can get myself back as long as I pick the right direction, but I don't know which way to go. So I'm going to look at that big tree right there, and I'm going to keep it in sight, and I'm going to move in this direction in a straight line. And the way I move in a straight line was pretty easy as long as you keep an eye on that tree, and as long as the vegetation is not so dense that you can't see, 10 yards. I've been in some woods where you can't see more than 10 yards at a time, and you'll quickly lose sight of that. But in this situation, I can see it for a good ways. I could probably get 30, 40 yards, maybe even further before I lose track of that tree. So that's what I would do. I just keep an eye on that tree, and I move in this direction right here in a straight line away from that tree in this direction to a point where I start to lose sight of that tree, like this. I can still see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's still right there. There's that tree. So I still got it. I haven't lost sight of that tree, and I'll go as far as I can until it's gone. Right about here. Vegetation's starting to get a little bit thick. Okay, so I can't see that tree anymore. I know it's right there, but I can't see it anymore. So now I stop, I look around, I listen. Maybe I can hear the river. Maybe I can hear a road. Maybe I can smell something. Who knows? Maybe I see the trail. I don't know. Maybe I don't. If I don't, I move back. I go back to my original starting location, back to that same tree that I just came from. And then I start over, but I move in a different direction. You know, there's ways that you can kind of guesstimate north, south, east, and west, but those ways aren't always reliable. I keep a bit. Actually, I have a compass in my belt just for this exact reason right here. This is a small little button compass, and while it's not the most accurate thing, it is accurate, but I'm not gonna be able to find an exact pinpoint location with a compass like this. It does get me, I can move in a straight line with it. In a general direction. I know generally which way north is. I know generally which way east is, and I can find a road that's east of me using this button compass. It's really handy, and I have it on me all the time right here in my belt. I keep it right there in the front. So I can just easily access it and grab it. But like I was saying, I'm back to my tree. Here I am, back at my tree. And this direction right here, that way right there, was not fruitful. I didn't find what I was looking for. I'm lost still. So I would move in a different direction. I would go 90 degrees in this direction right here and do exactly the same thing. And then I would do 90 degrees in this direction right here, north, south, east, and west-ish. And I would do the same thing, and I would keep looking until I found what I was looking for. If I didn't find what I was looking for, and that wasn't working, what I would do, I could just wait for rescue. Let's say I was injured or something like that, I would wait for rescue. But if I was determined to self-rescue, and I knew it wasn't that deep into the woods, I'm in the East Coast. If I move in a straight line in any direction, it doesn't matter. I pick one, any direction whatsoever. I move in a straight line. Eventually, I will hit something. I'll hit a river. I'll hit a road. I'll hit a house. I'll hit some sort of trail, something. Doesn't really matter what I hit as long as I hit something if I'm lost, if I'm really genuinely lost. So to move in a straight line, what I would do, we could use the sun, but again, the sun moves, so you have to kind of compensate. And that can be tricky, and you could lose track of where you started and where the sun's going and stuff. And especially if you're scared or hungry or hurt a little bit, it can be a little bit tricky. So what you can do to move in a straight line or a straighter line is just pick a target. Doesn't matter. Like, let's say this tree right here is my target, right? This is my starting point. That's my original tree where I first realized I was lost. And here's my next target. I can see another tree just beyond it. And then another tree just beyond it. And then another tree just beyond it. And as long as I keep moving in that generally straight line, I can keep moving without making a big circle. Because if you don't do that, you will walk in a big circle. It'll be this giant big loop. And you'll end up coming back to close to where you started from. You won't end up in exactly the same place where you started from, but you'll circle back to the general location where you started from, and you'll just keep walking in circles. So we don't want to do that. So I made it to my next tree. I look back at the tree that I started with, and then I line up the next tree. See these two trees right here? Those are in line with where I'm going. And then just beyond that, I see another tree that is in the same direction. And I just keep pushing in that same direction. Is it going to be perfect? No. I'm going to kind of deviate away from it, and I'm going to be kind of veering off. I might be doing a slight bit of a curve, but for the most part, generally speaking, it's going to be a one direction that I'm looking for, that I'm going to be tracking. And so that technique right there could get you out of a tight spot. Just pick any direction, doesn't matter, and follow it. So if you do find yourself in a tight spot, you went off trail to explore or to poop, and you find yourself lost or turned around a little bit and confused about where you are, don't freak out. Stop, observe your surroundings, listen, right? Listen for the road, listen for the river. Just observe your surroundings for a second and then strategically plan your escape. Don't freak out. And if you're really concerned or you are injured for some reason, just sitting and stopping, eventually someone's going to come looking for you, assuming you told somebody where you were going to start with, and you're not guilty of traveling off into remote places without telling people where you go, like I have before. I've definitely broken that rule before, but you should always tell somebody where you're going, the general location, what your plan is, where you're going, when you plan on returning. So if something does happen, someone can send the word out that you need some help. So, but if you should find yourself in that situation, just sitting still and waiting, having a signal whistle, which I also have in my belt right here. I'm not going to pull it out, but I've got a signal whistle in my belt that I could blow on. I could blow 3 toots on that, 3 really loud blows on that whistle every few minutes. And after I know that I've been lost for a day or so, and I know people are going to eventually start looking for me, I can blow on that whistle. And then if someone's looking for me in this general area, they can potentially hear that sound. A signal mirror that I also have on my belt. Look at that. This isn't an advertisement for Wazoo. I just happen to have their belt on. It's pretty much all I have on right now. The only gear I've got is that Wazoo belt. I could use that signal mirror, but in this environment, yeah, right. Like, who am I going to signal to? I mean, there's one opening right there. That's pretty much it. An airplane or helicopter flying over, nothing's going to see me. I couldn't signal to anyone here with a signal mirror. Just getting the sun to be able to hit the mirror is not really going to work. So having an audible signaling device is going to be really handy. But in the comment section, guys, let me know if you've ever been lost. Let me know what happened to you. What were your first initial reactions? What was your response to being like, oh crap, I'm lost? Did you panic? Was there that moment of fear? Well, for me, when I've been lost, I've definitely been turned around before. When that's happened to me, it was a sense of fear, not because I thought I was going to die or, I was going to be lost forever and it was going to be the end of the world. It was because I wasn't going to make it back to where I said I was going to be in time. And I didn't want people worrying about me. And I didn't want, search and rescue coming out and looking for me. I didn't want that to be the thing. That was the stress for me, is to not have people worried about me. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think about that. If you've ever been lost, if you've ever been turned around, what went through your mind? What was that initial reaction, your response, and how did you handle it? How did you get yourself out of that situation? Love to hear about that in the comment section. Until next time, friends, what's the worst that could happen? Let's just go on 3. Getaway boat.
Serious. Zoom in. He's going to that little... Cleaning it off.
Look at that. あ、どこをパッとやって。もし